Headlines now from Smerconish.com, the newsletter, where the word of the day is solipsistic. Solipsistic. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly, and I needed to look it up too, so don't worry if you don't know what it means. Best synonym would be egocentric, at least as I'm going to use it. And maybe you're saying, Michael, why isn't the word of the day inflation? Well, these two concepts are actually related. I'll explain in just a moment. TC, you all ready? The lipstick's in place because it is time for the headlines of the day.
Well, interestingly, people are asking whether solipsistic has anything to do with my lipstick.
So lipstick would be that. Yeah.
But yes, I am ready. I am here.
Is that your adapted shade now? You're going to go with that?
Well, this is the one that's sitting here on my desk. Oh, you want to take a look at it? Thank you. Yes. But I have other shades. I got 3 or 4 tubes over there. We'll see what happens.
Wow. All right.
Like your eyeglasses on Saturday morning. I could switch out between stories. Who knows?
Yesterday at Smerconish.com, I don't understand this. I guess the people voting on the survey question of the day are not Tesla drivers. Elon Musk,
they are, and so they know.
No. If they were, they'd be voting differently. Believe me. Elon Musk's decision not to join the Twitter board of directors is Twitter's loss. Disagreeing, 69.22%. So 70-30 people say, hey, Twitter's better off without him. Well, as was pointed out to me by a listener yesterday, what is seemingly going on here is that Musk is deciding that his 9 or 9.2% stake is not enough. By staying off the board, he can now exercise a control. A wild card investor who already owns 9% of the company now has the resources and the ability to buy the remaining 91%. So it's reported in a CNBC story that we've linked to today at Smerconish.com. With regard to today's survey, calling James Carville, I'm asking, will White House efforts to blame Putin for record inflation be politically successful? Because, of course, today, the Labor Department releasing these newest consumer price index reports. Yesterday, Jen Psaki made clear that the White House strategy will be to blame Vladimir Putin. In fact, she said headline inflation is going to be extraordinarily elevated due to Putin's price hike.
Well, do you believe in the Carville principle?
Definitely. Absolutely. James Carville famously said, it's the economy, stupid.
Yes.
That was at about the same time that he said that in between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh is Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, TC, I do agree with him. And it actually takes me to solipsistic.
Solipsistic. Yes. Where did that come from?
if you'll allow.
Please.
All right. This relates to Ukraine. A couple of things. Number one, from the Associated Press today, headline: more than 10,000 civilians presumed to be dead in one Ukrainian city. It's Mariupol, where Russian troops are believed to have killed that many civilians after the past 6 weeks. This, as fighting now is growing in intensity in eastern Ukraine, which is where the Russian forces now have another convoy and are on the march. This comes at the same time, and I went with NBC News today as to this story, that Putin is apparently bringing in General Alexander Dvornikov, who most recently oversaw Russian troops in Syria, has a history of targeting civilians, and was chosen as the new ground commander in Ukraine. This, according to U.S. officials. This guy's known as a butcher. And that story takes me to the one that I really wanted to get to, which is an essay in The Atlantic from George Packer. I worry we'll soon forget Ukraine. And his story is all about the short attention spans of Americans and how many, he worries, have already moved on. The key line and use of the word that I've been bantying about is this: Ukrainians are right to worry that we'll soon lose interest and lapse back into our solipsistic dysfunction. In other words, that we will again resume our way of being very concerned about ourselves and everyone else being secondary. Do you agree with that, TC?
Yes, I actually do agree with that. And I worried, I mean, you and I had this conversation last week talking about what to cover on CNN and how many blocks, et cetera. I worry that people are, as it goes on and it seems so far away and it seems like a television show, that people are not going to stay on it. And that means Putin will win.
That's a really good barometer and very personal to me, because the CNN program consists of 4 segments, and last weekend, 3 of the 4 did not directly deal with Ukraine, whereas the prior 3 or 4 weeks were all about Ukraine.
It's the first thing I thought of when I saw that, because you and I had that conversation.
So it's only Tuesday, and if you were to say to me as of Tuesday, what do you think in terms of the percentage of your 4 blocks that will be Ukraine? It's dependent upon the news cycle. I mean, if nothing changes between today and Saturday, I'd probably be at the 1 out of 4 ratio again.
But maybe you shouldn't be.
Maybe I shouldn't be. But then again, what am I supposed to do? If the public is moving on, am I supposed to, like a school marm, say, no, here it is, all Ukraine?
I see it the opposite.
I get I get evaluated based on those numbers.
I know, but sometimes you just have to do what's right.
And then I could be out of a job.
No.
Well, I'm just saying, theoretically. Here from George Packer, here's some more of the argument. This is more of the logic. In the days after, and read this, it's posted at Smerconish.com. I can't help you with the paywall, hence I'm going to read two paragraphs from it.
Good.
In the days after Zelensky's speech to Congress, you could sense American life returning to its natural state. Republican senators accused Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson of being soft on pedophilia, then checked their phones for their mentions. Meta Platforms announced that CEO Mark Zuckerberg will spend more time working remotely from his 1,500-acre Hawaiian estate and other homes. Kylie Jenner told her 325 million Instagram followers that her newborn son will no longer go by the name of Wolf. An online horde of journalists attacked the New York Times for publishing an editorial in defense of free speech. We talked about that extensively, and we talked about this. For 72 hours, Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars was bigger than the war in Ukraine. The endless self-regard, triviality, and cynicism of American culture in the age of digital polarization seeped back amid images of Ukrainians filling sandbags on the Odessa beaches or risking Russian shelling to bring sheltered dogs to safety. And then further along in the essay, he says this: 20 years later, with the failures of Iraq, Afghanistan, and the war on terror, with the rise of new powers abroad, with rampant economic inequality and entrenched political hatred at home, the 9/11 fever is gone. We suffer from its opposite, exhaustion and disbelief. Ukrainians are right to worry that we'll soon lose interest and lapse back into our solipsistic dysfunction. The Biden administration can keep Americans engaged with Ukraine by encouraging generous support for the refugees coming here. The administration can better explain the sacrifices that the war is imposing on Americans and prevent windfall oil profits from turning a war for democracy abroad into a sense of injustice over unequal burdens at home. Civic organizations can sustain interest in Ukraine by creating outlets for acts of solidarity between individuals and groups. And related back to the conversation I was just having with TC, news organizations can maintain the public's focus by pursuing their basic mission of reporting. American overreach is a perpetual danger, but the thing to fear most now is indifference. Hence the word of the day being solipsistic, which I think I'm pronouncing correctly. Philadelphia, our home area, leading the news across the country in the last 24 hours because Philadelphia announced that masks will once again be required in indoor spaces. So this is restaurants, this is gyms, this is retail stores, this is also schools. It's the first major city nationwide to reinstate a mask mandate as coronavirus cases begin to rise again in cities across the country. I've not noticed an uptick. Have you in suburbia?
I have not. No, I have not noticed an uptick in suburbia yet. But I think, as is always the case, or was the case the last go around, when things happen in Philadelphia, you'll see people in this building start wearing masks up and down the elevators. You'll see people in grocery stores. But no, I have not seen an uptick yet.
I will. I'll be in the city later today and tomorrow, and shall report back.
Has it started yet, or is it starting after? Is it starting next week?
Next week. I'm sorry. Yeah, as of Monday.
Yeah.
No, TC. I actually don't hold me to that. I'm not sure what day it begins. Oh, here it is. April 18th.
There you go.
April 18th. Okay. So next week. So this is interesting. The Daily Mail had a big splash yesterday, and I didn't see it reported elsewhere. And then I wanted to know, okay, what exactly is the source? Who are these people? But the big splash was as follows. States that imposed the harshest lockdowns had the most devastating impact on the public. The most wide-ranging study into COVID restrictions in the U.S. to date has found New York, California, New Jersey, and Illinois were panned for their pandemic performance after bringing in draconian measures to shut their citizens in their homes. So this is the divide about, once again, what did it do to a whole host of mental health factors and other lifestyle and health factors to have some people in a lockdown when others were not. It's very interesting. It breaks along partisan lines. What's the source? Who are the authors? The authors are University of Chicago economist Casey Mulligan and Stephen Moore. Stephen Moore has been a guest of mine, maybe not here on POTUS, but definitely on CNN. And Philip Kirpin of the Committee to Unleash Prosperity. So this is a group that was founded in 2015 that included Steve Forbes, Larry Kudlow, Arthur Laffer, and Steve Moore. So they are conservative economists. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're wrong, but I just want to tell you where they're coming from. In pursuit of rapid growth, the committee promotes the following 6 economic principles. One of them is a broad-based, low-rate, flat tax. So they have a perspective, but they say they've looked at the data, and the states that locked down the most suffered the most. So this is the old California-Florida divide, and I encourage you to read it. I've posted it. Maybe a bigger surprise is what to make of this from Mediaite. Mediaite reporting that Tucker Carlson recently spoke to a church in San Diego. I'm kind of curious about the circumstances of him speaking to a church in San Diego, but okay. He told a group of churchgoers that he is not vaccinated. I skipped the first 3, and I'm not getting that one either. He said, according to the Voice of San Diego, for months there had been speculation about whether he is vaccinated. Carlson has aired numerous segments during Fox News primetime calling into question the efficacy, the efficiency of the vaccines. Hey, I don't get this because and I've said here on POTUS many times over that I believed it was hypocritical for him to give so much airing to a mindset, to a viewpoint of anti-vax when I said, assuredly, he himself is vaccinated. And why did I say that, TC? I said that because Fox News has a requirement.
Well, that's what, I was literally just typing that in as you were talking. So, yeah, he works in New York City, right? That's where he broadcasts from. Tucker Carlson.
Well, not exactly. I mean, maybe therein lies maybe that therein lies the. I think most times you see him, he's in Maine or in Florida. I think.
Oh,
yeah,
because it says that this is from December.
Maybe that's why he doesn't broadcast from New York City.
This is from December that employees on Friday said those working in New York City would have to show proof they've had at least one dose of the COVID vaccine by December 27th, removing the option to get tested weekly. So they tightened those mandates.
That might be the answer.
That could be it.
That might be the answer.
Because I thought for sure when you started that, I was like, whoa, Fox News, because that made headlines, that made big news when Fox News said
I think you put your finger on it.
Yeah.
I think the issue is where is he physically working?
Okay, now I'm fascinated to see where he actually is. We'll have to find that out.
From Politico today, the top 10 Senate seats that are most likely to flip to the other party. Number 1 on that list was Pennsylvania. I keep talking about the Pennsylvania Senate race, and I'll do so again in a moment. But in this case, and I read all 10, and it's from NPR, and I recommend it. It's posted at Smerconish.com. I took a look at Ohio. Rob Portman is, of course, retiring on the Republican side of the aisle. Very interesting. Former state treasurer Josh Mandel, investment banker Mike Gibbons are neck and neck, very far ahead of the name you'll probably be more familiar with, and that's J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, the Hillbilly Elegy author, a darling of progressives when the book came out, just not getting any traction thus far in the Republican race in Ohio. I have told you several times about John Fetterman and Connor Lamb, the two leading candidates running for U.S. Senate on the Democratic side in Pennsylvania. Well, they didn't quite share a stage, but they both appeared last night at an answer to answer questions about gun violence. And Lieutenant Governor Fetterman responded to a question last night about what exactly happened in 2013 when he was the mayor of a small town called Braddock. There was an incident, this is outside of Pittsburgh, that ended with him pulling a gun on an unarmed jogger who was African American. What was it all about? Last night, he said that he heard gunfire near his home, called police, grabbed his shotgun, chased down a man that he saw running from the area. The person turned out to be an unarmed black jogger who said Fetterman pointed a gun at him. Fetterman said that he never pointed a gun at anyone and that he made, quote, a split-second decision to intercept the individual to make sure that the community was safe and protected. How much will Connor Lamb use that issue, if at all, in the final month of the campaign remains to be seen. I'm always taking note of what is the most popular story at the many, many news outlets that I visit. And I thought this was really interesting. At the Washington Post, this was last night. By today, it had been bumped out of the news by Ukraine. But as of last night, Corinna Cohn wrote a piece for the Washington Post talking about having had sex reassignment surgery at age 19 and wanted to offer her perspective as to what the process entailed and what regrets she had in her case. I highly recommend this. TC, I've been wanting to do a segment on exactly this issue of what is a parent to do? What is a parent to do when a teenager says, I want to transition, or even more, I want gender reassignment surgery? We need to get some folks on with expertise to talk about that issue.
For sure.
In this case, she says, here's a paragraph. I shudder to think of how distorting today's social media is for confused teenagers. I'm also alarmed by how readily authority figures facilitate transition. I had to persuade 2 therapists, an endocrinologist, and a surgeon to give me what I wanted. None of them were under crushing professional pressure, as they now would be to affirm my choice. Most of all, her advice, slow down. You may yet decide to make the change, but if you explore the world by inhabiting your body as it is, perhaps you'll find that you love it much more than you thought possible. So let's make that happen.
When I looked at that piece, I was also very interested in the comments after her piece, because it was a really interesting conversation with some people saying, I went through the reassignment surgery when I was young and I have found happiness and this saved my life. And people were very appreciative of her not closing the door, not saying you shouldn't or should, just saying you wanting to have the conversation. And the conversation that continues in the comments I found fascinating.
Well, I most appreciated the part that I just read where she said, hey, I had to convince a number of healthcare professionals.
And do you not think that's going on now? Because
I don't know.
I remember when you had a transgender surgeon,
Yeah.
a surgeon who is both transgender
many times.
Right. And does gender affirmation surgery. And she was very clear that it is a process, and it's mental and it's physical, and it's not at all something that is done in, blink of an eye.
So in this piece, the piece written by Corinna Cohn, which is posted at Smerconish.com from the Post, she believes that today, if she had gone back to those same professionals that she'd consulted when she was 19, they would be under, quote unquote, crushing professional pressure to affirm her choice, instead of to say, hey, wait a minute, I don't know. That's why I want to have guests and get expertise.
Right.
Finally, everything old is new again. It is 4:20 somewhere right now. New Jersey. Finally, the long-awaited opening of New Jersey's recreational cannabis market just got the green light. And when I say everything old is new again, to me, this is reminiscent of a long time ago when I was 18 and the drinking age in Pennsylvania was 21, and the drinking age in New Jersey was 18, and residing as I did 20 minutes from the border with all my friends, what did we do? I'm not condoning or endorsing it, but we drove to Jersey, and on weekends.
Whoa, you're not allowed to do that with weed. You can buy it in New Jersey, but you can't bring it back.
Well, I mean, the same thing there. We were underage the minute we brought our booze back. That's why I say everything old is new again.
Boy.
So I'm going to be back where I was at age 18.
Oh no,
What I'm hoping is, and I've been hoping this for a long time because this has been such a slow starter in New Jersey, even though voters approved it. But finally, it seems now legal weed in New Jersey, recreational, is going to be a reality. My hope is that it will put pressure on Pennsylvania, if for no other reason to say, look at all the tax revenues we are losing because people are crossing the bridge to get their weed in New Jersey. So kudos to truly now, TC, giving legitimacy to the motto of the state, the Garden State. Yes, the Garden State. So those are your headlines today from Smerconish.com. Make sure you are registered for the newsletter. There's a lot more there. In like 15 or 20 minutes, we can only cover about a third or half of all of the great news that we've consolidated for you at the website.